glad to see you.
Why, yes, of course, only we thought it was to be tomorrow night. Tomorrow night?
What? Oh no, it's perfectly fine. Just make yourselves at home. Tony, how could you possibly?
I don't know. I thought it was
Really,
tonight.
Tony, this is most embarrassing.
Not at all. We weren't doing a thing. This is Alice's mother, Mrs. Sycamore.
How do you do?
Alice's sister, Mrs. Carmichael. Her husband, Ed Carmichael. Mr. Glenn and Mr. DePinna. How do you do?
Don't mind my costume, I'll take it right off.
Oh, Mr. DePinna, will you tell Mr. Sycamore to come right up, tell him that the Kirbys are here.
And be sure to put his pants on.
All right, excuse me.
Thank you. Oh, no, Alice, that you're Alice, dear!
What is it?
Oh, will you come down here, Alice? We've got a surprise for you. Well.
Mrs. Kirby, may I take the wrap?
Well, thank you. You're perfectly sure that we're not.
Oh, don't be alarmed, Mrs. Kirby. They're perfectly harmless.
Thank you.
And take them into the kitchen?
Of course, we're so used to them being around the house. I'm sorry to trouble you. It's just.
I feel very uncomfortable about this.
Tony, how could you possibly?
I'm sorry. I thought it was tonight.
It was very careless of you. Very.
Oh, come now, Mr. Kirby. Anyone could make a mistake.
Penny, how about some dinner for these folks? They've come for dinner, you know.
Oh, please don't bother. We're really not hungry at all. Oh, but it's not a bit of bother. Ed, tell Donald to run down to the feet and get half a dozen bottles of beer and some canned salmon. Do you like canned salmon, Mr. Kirby?
Please don't trouble Mrs. Sycamore. I have a little indigestion anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. How about you, Mrs. Kirby? Do you like canned salmon? Oh, I'm very fond of it. You could have frankfurters if you'd rather. Either will do. Well, make it frankfurters and some canned corn and Campbell's soup. Got that, Ed? Okay. And tell Donald to hurry. The A&P is just around the corner, and frankfurters don't take any time at all to boil.
And this is Alice's father, Mr. Sycamore. This is the Kirbys. How do you do? I hope you'll forgive my appearance.
This is Mr. Sycamore's busiest time of the year, right before the 4th of July. He's always very busy.
Oh, darling, I'm the most dull-witted person in the world. I thought it was tonight.
Tony, I hope that you... I'm so sorry. I can't imagine why I wasn't... Have you all met each other?
Yes.
How do you do, Alice?
How do you do, Mrs. Kirby? I'm afraid I'm not very presentable.
Oh, darling, you look lovely.
Of course he does. Don't let this upset you, my dear. We've only met a night sooner, that's all.
Of course. But I was planning such a nice party tomorrow night.
Well, we'll come again tomorrow.
There you are, Alice. Am I forgiven?
I guess so. It's just that we better see about getting you some dinner.
Oh, that's all been taken care of, Alice. That's all been taken care of.
But Mother, what did you send out for? Because Mr. Kirby suffers from indigestion and he can only eat certain things.
It's all right. It's all right.
Of course it is, Alice.
I asked him what he wanted, Alice.
Now, it's not as serious as all that. Just because I have a little indigestion.
Perhaps it is not indigestion you have, Mr. Kirby. Perhaps it is stomach ulcers.
Don't be absurd, Mr. Kalenkoff.
You mustn't mind Mr. Kalenkoff, Mr. Kirby. You see, he's a Russian, and Russians are inclined to look on the dark side of things.
All right, I am a Russian. But a friend of mine, a Russian, died from stomach ulcers.
Really, I'm fine.
Please, Mr. Kalenkoff. Mr. Kirby has indigestion and that's all.
All right, let him wait.
Do sit down, Mr. Kirby. Why don't you make yourself comfortable?
Thank you.
Well,
Tell me, Mr. Kirby, How do you find business conditions? Are we pretty well out of the depression?
What? Yes, I think so. Of course, it all depends.
Oh, but you figure things are going to keep on improving.
Broadly speaking, yes. As a matter of fact, the industry is now operating at a 64% full capacity. Well, in fact,
Well, he was number one, and the fun has just begun. Roll me over,
that
will you
may
never
seem
do
a
it
little
again?
strange to you folks, but she's not quite healthy for her actions. You see, she's a friend of Mrs. Sycamore, so she came to dinner and was, overcome by the heat.
Yes, you know, something will feel it more than others. Perhaps I'd better go and check on her. Excuse me.
It is awfully hot. You usually skate overseas, don't you, Mrs. Kirby? Up in Maine?
As a rule, I have to come down this week, however, for the flower show.
Mother wouldn't miss that for the world. That blue ribbon is the high spot of her year.
I won a ribbon at a flower show once for raising onions. Remember, Alice?
That was a garden show, Essie.
Oh, yes. I think she'll be all right now. Has Donald come back yet?
No, he hasn't.
Oh, well, he'll be back soon, and then dinner won't take any time at all.
it's quite all right. Hello, what's this? I didn't know there were little children in the house. Oh no, that's mine. Well, I suppose every man has his hobby. Or do you use this as a model of some kind? No, I just play with it. I see.
Oh, maybe you'd be better off with a hobby like that, Dad, instead of raising orchids.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Please tell us about your orchids, Mr. Kirby. You know, they take 6 years before they bloom, don't they? Think of that.
Yes, some of them take longer than that, you know. I've got one coming along now that I've waited 10 years for.
Believe it or not, I was waiting for an orchid.
Yes. They require the most scrupulous care. I remember a bulb I was quite fond of, and you won't believe it.
Ah, here we are. Did you get anything, Donald?
Yes, ma'am. Only they didn't have any frankfurters, so I got pickled pig's feet.
That's fine, Donald. Just bring everything into the kitchen. Please tell them all about your orchids, Mr. Kirby. I know they'd love to hear about it. And excuse me.
It's quite an expensive hobby, isn't it, Mr. Kirby? You know, raising orchids?
Yes, it is. But I believe if a hobby gives one sufficient pleasure, it's never expensive.
Well, that's very true, Mr. Kirby.
You see, I need something to relieve the daily nerves strain. After a week in Wall Street, I'd go crazy if I didn't have something like that. Most men I know have yachts, just for that very reason.
Why don't they give up Wall Street?
How's that?
Oh, I was just joking.
I think it's necessary for everyone to have a hobby. Of course, it's more than a hobby to me, but my great solace is spiritualism. Spiritualism? Now, Mrs. Kirby, everyone knows that's a fake. To me, Mrs. Sycamore, spiritualism is... Well, I would rather not discuss it, Mrs. Sycamore.
Now remember, Penny, you've got one or two hobbies of your own now.
Yes, but not silly ones.
I would think it matters what the hobby is. The important thing is to have one.
To be ideal, a hobby should improve the body as well as the mind. The Romans were a great people. Why? What was their hobby? Wrestling. In wrestling, you must think quick with the mind and act quick with the body.
Yes, but I'm afraid wrestling is not practical for most of us. I would make a good showing as a wrestler myself.
Oh, nonsense! You would be a great wrestler. You are good for it. Oh!
Where are my glasses?
Here they are, Mr. Kirby. Oh, Mr. Kirby, they're broken.
Oh, I am so sorry. But when you wrestle again, Mr. Kirby, you will of course not wear glasses.
I do not intend to wrestle again, Mr. Politecall.
You'd better sit down, Father.
Mr. Politecall, how could you do such a thing? Why did somebody stop him?
I think if you don't mind, perhaps we better be going.
Mother!
Mrs. Kirby, please don't go. Mr. Kirby, I ordered you scrambled
I'm sorry if I did something wrong. And I apologize.
I can't tell you how sorry I am, Mr. Kirby. If I'd been
It's
here...
quite all right. Of course it is. It's all right, Alice. We're not going.
Well, that was exciting for a moment, wasn't it?
We're talking about your orchids, Mr. Kirby. Do you raise many different varieties?
I'm afraid I've quite forgotten about my orchids.
I'm awfully sorry, Mr. Kirby.
Oh, what did I do that was so terrible? I threw him on the floor. We didn't kill him.
Please, Mr. Borkwall.
I'm sure dinner won't be any time at all now.
Oh, would you like some candy while you're waiting, Mr. Kirby? I've got some freshly made.
My doctor does not permit me to eat candy. Thank you.
Oh, but this is nothing, Mr. Kirby. Just coconut and marshmallow and fudge. Don't, Essie. Wow. Miss Alice? Miss Alice! Excuse me. What is it, Rita? The eggs done fell down the sink. Make some more, quick. I ain't got any. Send Donna for some. All right. And tell them to hurry. I'm so sorry. There'll be a little delay, but everything should be ready in just a minute.
Whoosh!
Oh, I certainly have put you people to a lot of trouble with my stupidity.
Not at all, Tony.
Look, why don't we all play a game of sorts while we're waiting?
Oh, that'd be fine.
I have an idea. I know a wonderful trick with a glass of water.
I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Kirby will love this game. It's perfectly harmless.
Please, Mother.
I'm not really good at games, Mrs. Sycamore.
Oh, but any fool could play this game, Mr. Kirby. All you do is write your name down on a piece of paper.
But Mother, Mr. Kirby doesn't
Oh,
want to.
love it. Here you are, Mr. Kirby. Now write your name down on that piece of paper, and Mrs. Kirby, you do the same on that one.
Mother, what is this game?
Oh, I used to play it at school. It's called Forget-Me-Not. Here you are, Grandpa. Now, I'm going to call out 5 words, just anything at all. And as I say each word, you're to put down the first thing that comes into your mind, you see? For instance, if I say grass, you might put down green. Just whatever you think of. Or if I call out chair, you might put down table. It shows people's reactions to different things. You see how simple it is, Mr. Kirby.
Come on, Father. Be a sport.
All right, I shall be happy to play.
You see, Alice, he does want to play.
Well,
Now then, are we ready?
Ready?
Now remember, you must play fair. Put down the first thing that comes into your mind.
I understand.
Everyone ready? The first word is potatoes. Potatoes.
Go ahead.
All right, the next word is bathroom.
Mother.
Bathroom, got that? All ready? Lust.
Mother, this is
Sense, Alice, that word's all right.
Mother, it's not all right.
I don't know. It seems to me like it's a perfectly fair word. You see, now you mustn't interrupt the game.
May I have the last word again, please?
Lust, Mr. Kirby.
I've got it.
This is quite a game, isn't it?
Grandpa, everybody ready? Honeymoon. Now, Essie. Ready for the last one? Sex.
Mother!
Everybody got sex? Now then, give me your papers. Oh, this is the best part. Now I get to read out your reactions. May I have your paper, Mr. Kirby?
I see. It's quite an interesting game.
I knew you'd like it. I'll read your paper first, Mr. Kirby. I'm going to read Mr. Kirby's paper first. Everybody listen. This is Mr. Kirby. Potatoes. Steak. Oh, that's very good. You see how they go together? Steak and potatoes.
I just happened to think of it.
That's very good. Bathroom. Toothpaste. Well, lust.
just a game, you know. It's sort of an experiment in psychology, isn't it?
Yes, it shows just how your mind works. Now we'll see how Mrs. Kirby's mind works. Everybody listen. This is Mrs. Kirby. Potatoes. Starch. Oh, I know just what you mean, Mrs. Kirby. Oh, dear. Bathroom. Mr. Kirby.
What's that?
Bathroom. Mr. Kirby.
I don't quite follow that, my dear.
I don't know, I just thought of you in connection with it. After all, you are in there a good deal, Anthony. Bathing and shaving, well, you do take a long time.
Indeed. Well, I didn't know I was being selfish in the matter.
I think it's a very silly game, and we ought to stop it.
Yes.
No. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore.
Where was I? Oh, lust. Human.
Human? Really, Miriam?
All I meant, Anthony, is that lust is, after all, a human emotion.
Well, I do not agree with you, Miriam. Lust is not a human emotion. It is depraved.
Very well, Anthony. I'm wrong.
Really, it's the most pointless game. Suppose we play 20 questions.
Yes.
No, I find this game rather interesting. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore. What was the next word?
Honeymoon.
And what was Mrs. Kirby's answer?
Honeymoon. Dull.
Did you say dull?
What I meant, Anthony, is that Hot Springs was that very day that season. All those old people sitting on the porch all afternoon and nothing to do at night.
That was not your reaction at the time as I recall it.
Father, this is only a game.
A very illuminating game. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore.
Oh, this one's all right, Mr. Kirby. Sex. Wall Street.
Wall Street? What do you mean by that, Miriam?
I don't know what I meant, Anthony. Nothing.
But you must have meant something, Miriam, or you wouldn't have put it
It
down.
was just the first thing that came into my head, and that's all.
But what does it mean, sex Wall
I
Street?
don't know what it means. It's just you're always talking about Wall Street, even when we... I don't know what I meant. Would you mind, Kirby, Alice, if we didn't stay for dinner? I'm afraid this game has given me a headache.
I understand, Mrs. Kirby.
Yes, possibly we'd better postpone the dinner.
Oh, but you're coming tomorrow night, aren't you?
I'm afraid we have another engagement tomorrow night.
Perhaps we should postpone the whole affair for a little while. With the hot weather.
I think we're being very ungracious, Father. Of course we'll stay to dinner. Tonight.
I have a very bad headache, Tony.
Come, Tony. I'm sure everyone understands.
Well, I don't. I think we ought to stay.
No, Tony.
What?
We were fools, Tony. And I didn't think it would work. It won't. Mr. Kirby, I will be at the office tomorrow morning. I'm afraid I won't be there at all anymore.
Oh, Alice, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry, my dear. Very sorry. Are you ready, Miriam?
Yes, Anthony.
Oh, my dear, you mustn't mind this.
Oh, it's been nice to have met you all.
Yes, lovely.
Are you coming, Tony?
No, Father, I'm not.
I see. Your mother and I will be waiting for you at home then. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, right where you are, everybody. Don't move. Which one is it?
This is him.
Hey, what are you doing? What does this mean?
Shut up! What's your name?
Edward Carmichael? I haven't done anything.
You haven't, huh?
Well, this seems rather high-handed to me. What's it all about?
Department of Justice.
Oh my goodness! Jacob!
Ed, what have you done?
I haven't done anything.
Now, what's the point done, officer?
What is it? What is it all about?
That door leads to the cellar?
Oh, yes, it does.
Matt, Jim,
Yes, sir.
take a look upstairs and see what you find.
Okay.
But I haven't
Come
done
here,
anything.
you. Ever seen these before?
They're my circulars.
You print this stuff, huh?
Yes, sir.
And you put them into boxes of candy and get them into people's homes?
The love dreams!
But I didn't mean that.
You didn't, huh? Dynamite the Capitol. Dynamite the White House. Dynamite the Supreme Court. God is the state is God.
But I didn't mean anything. I just like to print. Don't I, Grandpa?
No, officer. The government is in no danger from Ed. He prints anything. It's his hobby.
He does.
I've never heard of such nonsense.
I refuse to stay here.
Let me get my pipe!
Right, Chief. There's enough gunpowder down there to blow up the whole city.
But we only use that.
Keep still, everybody!